Hi there. Today we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and some of the related concepts. You will be writing about your own emotional intelligence in Journal 1 that's due this week. First, though, let's talk a little bit about debilitative emotions. And we talked, chapter 9 of your textbook, rather, talks about two different kinds of emotions. We have facilitative emotions, and these are emotions that contribute to our overall effective functioning. And we have debilitative emotions, and debilitative emotions detract from our effective functioning. The differences between the two aren't necessarily the type of emotion, rather, the differences lie in the intensity and duration. So, for example, anger can be very facilitative in helping us, right wrongs related to social justice, for example. Um, it can also be debilitative if it's really, really intense and goes on for a long time. So, we think about anger, and all emotions really happen along a spectrum. So, anger is very different than rage, right? So, when anger turns to rage, that becomes debilitative. Duration, if it goes on and on and on, so we continue to ruminate about it, then that also becomes debilitative. And so those debilitative emotions that detract from our effective functioning are the ones that are really challenging for us. And one of the causes of debilitative emotions is the amygdala. And the amygdala is located deep inside your brain, right? This little small part of the limbic system in here, and it controls the fight or flight response. It's really important, right, for our survival. But uh, if it continues to be triggered when we don't need to fight or flee, that can create problems. It's also the side of our emotional memory. And what can happen sometimes with the amygdala is it gets hijacked. And when we think about the amygdala hijack, it's a state of high arousal. It's a prehistoric physiological response. And think about this type of response when, somebody's so angry they see red, for example. That would be an example of the amygdala hijack. The body gets flooded with our stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, and it prevents us from behaving in a rational manner. And so it shifts how the mind functions, and the perceived threat becomes the most important thing. It actually shuts down the neural pathways to our decision making brain or our frontal cortex. So when we think about debilitative emotions and this idea of the amygdala taking over, we'd like the amygdala not to be hijacking us, right? It serves a very important function, but we don't want to get hijacked. And one of the ways that we can manage both debilitative emotions and, manage our physiological responses to hopefully minimize any kind of amygdala hijacking is through applying emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, also known as EQ, is our ability to manage our emotions while being sensitive to the feelings of others. And we use it to manage our behavior and our relationships. And it's rooted in our biology. So some people are more just naturally adept at it than others, but it can be learned. So that's a good thing. It can be developed. So what is emotional intelligence? Well, there's 5 domains. The first is emotional self-awareness, being aware of your emotions and what you're feeling as you're feeling them. So this is a really big part of emotional intelligence, it's just knowing what you're thinking. Self-regulation or mood management. So your ability to control your emotions rather than letting your emotions control you. Motivation. So the sense that I have the ability to control what happens in my life, right? So think about like an internal locus of control. So I'm in control of what happens to me rather than the world around me is controlling what happens. So people who have that strong sense of motivation have higher emotional intelligence, empathy, so the ability to really understand and feel what other people are feeling, and social skill, just the ability to get along with other people. And when we think about emotional intelligence, there are things we can do to improve our emotional intelligence. We know that EQ is a better predictor for success than IQ. So it's something that we really all should be thinking about. And, we probably all have areas that we're stronger in and other areas that we could improve upon. So, what are some things we can do? Reduce our negative emotions, reframe situations, change the way we think about things, manage our stress, think about ways that you can mitigate your stress, try to lessen it, put tools in place, express those difficult emotions when necessary rather than tamping them down. Increase that self awareness of your emotional state, even if it's just stopping and saying to yourself, what am I feeling right now? And then stay proactive, not reactive when dealing with difficult people. So create a plan for dealing with somebody difficult rather than reacting. So that's a little bit about emotional intelligence. You'll be writing about emotional intelligence this week in Journal 1 after you assess some of your own emotional intelligence skills. Thank you.